Hello?
Hi, Norm. We're getting ready to call the meeting to order.
You know, I just got a message.
It was a mistake. My phone did something and I canceled the board meeting. So, have a nice night.
Okay.
I'm just
So
kidding.
the meeting's on.
All right,
Okay,
we're going to
good.
call to order.
Be ready. Bye-bye.
Don't hang up.
Good? All right. Meeting called to order. All members present. Dr. Gooch is on the phone. We have no public comment this evening. Adjourned closed session.
quorum. We're gonna call the meeting back to order.
Thank you.
You ready?
All right, reconvene to open session. Martha will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And standing for a moment of silence. There was no action taken in closed session. Call for an adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Programs and presentations. Our 2020-2021 Outstanding Educators of the Year.
Good evening, board members, Ms. Kern, and of course the community. I'm very excited to be here tonight to recognize our 2021 Outstanding Educators of the Year. For our certificated administrator, we have Milton Sanchez. For our principal, we have Cynthia Robinson. Classified, we have Eugenia Galeen. Confidential management, we have Sandra Birmingham. School counselor, we have Kim Bales. And site support, we have Jesse Gutierrez. Now typically we would recognize these people here tonight with a plaque and a few words from their supervisor. Due to the pandemic, we'll be doing things a little differently tonight. Site supervisors will be presenting the plaques at site, so we'll be having them take them there. And other than the supervisors that we have here tonight, I will be reading on behalf of the supervisors. We are very happy and of all these well-deserving people. We're very excited for all of them. Tonight, we're going to start off with Ms. Kern. She is going to give us a few words about Milton Sanchez, our Certificated Administrator of the Year.
Okay. At this time, I would like to recognize our Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Sanchez. Milton Sanchez is currently the Acting Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for Palo Verde Unified School District. Prior to serving in his current role, Milton Sanchez served PVUSD as the Director of Business Services, Principal of Twin Palms High School, Administration on Special Assignment, Coordinator, and Teacher. We are very fortunate to have someone that has the heart of a teacher as our Assistant Superintendent and Acting CBO. This is truly a rare gift to our district. Mr. Sanchez brings the integration of all his experience into his current position with his heart and vision on what is best for students while maintaining diligence towards supporting all staff. Assistant Superintendent Sanchez truly desires to serve our community through education, and we are fortunate to have him as a member of our administrative team. Congratulations, Milton Sanchez, on being selected as the 2020-2021 Outstanding Educator of the Year in the category of Certificated Administration.
Next up, we have Principal Cynthia Robinson, and Ms. Kern will also share some words about Ms. Robinson.
Cynthia Robinson is currently the fabulous principal at Ruth Brown Elementary School. This is her 4th year as acting principal. Prior to serving PVUSD as the principal of Ruth Brown, Cynthia Robinson served 2 years as TOSA at Ruth Brown and served as teacher at all 3 of our elementary schools. Under Principal Robinson's leadership, Ruth Brown Elementary School students and staff have been supported with Principal Robinson's heart for serving others and her dedication of continuous improvement for positive outcomes for students and staff. Under her care, we are happy and lucky to have Cynthia Robinson as our principal. And congratulations, Principal Robinson, on your well-deserved recognition as the 2020-2021 Outstanding Educator of the Year for the principal category.
And next up, I will be reading on behalf of Miss Angel at the high school. Our classified Outstanding Employee of the Year was Eugenia Galeen. And these are Miss Angel's words. Miss Eugenia Galeen knows how to connect with families in a positive way. She is diligent in contacting families when students don't attend school, and that contributes greatly to the success of our students turning absences into positive attendance rates. She keeps her records extremely organized and is able to reference past communications quickly and efficiently. Miss Galeen has a positive, upbeat attitude and relays her concerns regarding students' absences in a concise, supportive way. Ms. Galeen is bilingual, which helps greatly in the PBHS office. According to Ms. Galeen, one of the most rewarding aspects of her position is when she can help families connect to resources in our community when assistance is needed. PBHS administration, faculty, and staff is very proud to have Ms. Galeen as a member of the Yellow Jack family. Next up, we have our confidential management, which I will be reading that. That is for Miss Sandra Birmingham. I'm very excited to be here. Again, good evening, everybody. I'm extremely honored to be here tonight to recognize Sandra Birmingham as a confidential management outstanding educator of the year. This is a well-deserved honor. Sandra is an incredible support to the personnel department and to our district as a whole. She has a lot of knowledge about the personnel department and is very familiar with the history of our district, which makes her an amazing asset. I personally have learned so much from her. Sandra also does an excellent job of supporting the sites in our district. She's always available to answer questions to our certificated staff and a huge help to our supervisors whenever they need her. I am very honored and thankful to have her on our personnel team. Congratulations, Sandra. Next, we have our counselor of the year, Miss Bales, Miss Kim Bales. This is on behalf of Mr. Stephen Romines. He sent this, so I'm reading this on behalf of Mr. Romines. It is with great pleasure that I introduce the outstanding educator school counselor, Kim Bales. Kim has dedicated her professional life to helping others achieve their aspirations and dreams through focused and professional knowledge in the counseling field. She works tirelessly meeting with students, teachers, and administrators, implementing the MTSS support for student learning. Each student at Margaret White is served with her dedication to equity for all learners. Leading the efforts in supporting students, Kim brought fun and engaging activities to the school. The Bulldog Breakfast is a weekly time for students and staff to eat and converse over Zoom. It is a huge hit and has become a favorite for all. Kim's dedication to the well-being and learning of Margaret White students has set a standard of excellence that leads our educational team to strive and be better every day. It is a well-deserved that Kim Bales is our outstanding educator of the year for our school counselors. And next we have for our site support, we have Jesse Gutierrez, and Milton Sanchez will share a few words in regards to him.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Good evening, board, superintendent, and community. I am pleased to present the our outstanding educator of the year for site support. That is Mr. Jesse Gutierrez. Jesse started with us around November 2019, so he's been with us just for a year, a little over a year. And about 4 or 5 months into Jesse's tenure, mind you, this is his first assignment in this position, he was hit with COVID. And it really, like all of us, I mean, we're all hit with it, but in particular, I'm particularly proud of him because his department was hit in a way that could have really crippled it. And rather than, hobbling along, Jesse is soaring. And I'm super, super proud of the work that he's done. He's managed to, and his team, I got to share the credit, but he's managed to take a big concern, which when COVID hit was our lunch program. We thought we were going to go in the red and stay in the red. And he's been able to make that program successful, and it's been probably more successful than it's ever been. So I appreciate him for thinking out of the box and, finding ways to make it work. He's also pursued various grants and found other ways to increase the district's revenue. And if I'm not mistaken, he's gotten right around $125,000 in grant revenue for the district. And I just found out the other day that he quietly applied for some additional revenues in the spring, like April, May, and he got $97,000 more dollars. So this guy's paid for his salary for like 2 or 3 years. So I'm super proud of Jesse. I'm glad to have him on our district team. I'm proud of his team. Nutrition's doing a lot of great work, and this is well deserved. So thank you, Jesse, if you're listening.
So again, I just want to say congratulations to everybody that was being honored tonight. All well deserved, and again, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next presentation will be in high school athletics update. We'll have Miss Genevieve Hahn.
Hello? Hello, Ms. Hahn. You're live with the board meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to share some updates for TV athletics. So the last time I provided you with updates, the California Department of Public Health had just shared guidelines for each sport based on the risk of infection within each sport. This means that each sport for Palo Verde High School is accordingly designated into a colored tier based on the blueprint for the safer economy. Those color designations and the CDPH guidance from December 14th remain in effect and are pretty much the reference point for planning by the CIF at the state and section level. So I want to preface as I move forward that there has been additional updates by CIF San Diego section. However, I just logged off a CIF Zoom meeting call prior to taking this call, so I'm still processing some of the information. Even so, I have some updates to share with you. On January 13th last week, our CIF San Diego section released an updated memo. In the memo, CIF San Diego section made minor adjustments to sport start dates to protect our spring sports that were lost last year. This includes shifting up swim to be part of season 1 to allow flexibility in the season timeline, and also moving up the start date of track and field, which will operate as a cohort with cross country. Right now, we have several purple tier sports that CIF has slated to start beginning as early as February. Although many contingencies remain for the start of the purple tier sports, and all PVHS athletics at this time efforts are being made to further prepare for these purple tier sports. So the CIF tentative start dates are as follows for the PVHS sports. We have slated by the CIF San Diego section girls and boys cross country and girls and boys swim slated for February 1st start date. Girls golf February 8th, boys golf February 15th, and they also moved up the girls and boys track and field to February 15th. So there are some contingencies on these start dates. Firstly, in these purple tiered sports, since we are using the guidance from CDPH and that December 14th youth sports guidance, when CIF issued this memo last week, these purple sports right now are for practice only. So the goal is to acclimate students in these sports so that they'll be ready when competitions open. So again, the practice only emphasizes skill-based conditioning practices only if we began in February. At this time, no competitions are allowed until the regional stay-at-home orders are lifted for the entire Southern California region. So again, CIF is planning and preparing and would like to begin with practices, even though we are awaiting the stay-at-home order to be lifted. The memo from January 13th also states that student athletes and coaches may only participate in a single cohort which they are defining now as a single team. So one cohort during the same time or same season. CIF has said that they have removed the 14-to-2 ratio in their cohort language, and it's one team. Individual schools and districts may elect to open seasons at a later date than those February start dates that I stated. As far as the other season one sports, so I'm talking about football and girls volleyball, which were slated in as orange tier sports. It states in the memo from January 13th that practice may open if the tier is within one tier level of the assigned tier for the sport. So those are orange sports, they could start practice in red if we get to that point, and the stay-at-home order has been lifted. So the same applies for season two sports only after the CIF start date has occurred, and additional updates on the non-purple tier sports require improvements in the COVID numbers then. So as a county, we remain in the purple tier under that December 14th guidance, which also says no indoor sport activities are permitted, which is why we're emphasizing and focusing on the purple tier sports at this time. CIF has not cut any sports from their master calendar. They're going to continue to wait and see as things progress and if we get into these purple tier sports before they make any cuts from any sports whatsoever. While all high school sport activities remain under the guidance of the state, the CIF plans to share protocols with schools in the coming weeks in an effort to move forward with the plans and preparations for the outdoor and lower risk individual sports in the purple tier, the sports that I listed. The time for a potential practice start date has sped up significantly. So in the meantime, for PV athletics, we are beginning to meet and plan with the purple tier sport coaches in anticipation of the CIF schedule of an early February start. We are working with the league to assess sport needs in terms of protocols, volunteers needed for game days, transportation concerns, and any scheduling modifications that will need to be made. Additionally, at this time, we continue to utilize our online program to register our student athletes for sports, and we will do that through January 29th, so we can use the list of the students registered to assess specific level of interest of students for our purple tier sports. Just a little bit more, though the CDPH and CIF have set the dates upon which sports may begin practice and to acclimate students for participation, the choice to start playing is left up to individual districts and schools. So for PV athletics, we will continue to plan and prepare, but there are several conditions that must be met in order for these practices to begin in the purple tier. That includes, one, the approval by the board and our teachers to allow students back on campus for sports and practices, even if we are in a conditioning, skill-based conditioning focus. And also, two, moving forward, in order for any competitions to occur, the regional stay-at-home order must be listed for the competitions to occur. So, although the Blythe community spread remains high, we are hopeful that we can safely plan for and hopefully begin some of the lower risk purple tier outdoor sports in early February if the above conditions are met. This concludes my update tonight. Are there any questions from board members?
No, thank you for your time, Ms. Hahn.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, our next presentation is the 2019-2020 Palo Verde Unified School District Financial Audit Report.
Hello, this is Natalie.
Hi, Natalie. You're with the school board. Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Natalie Prado. I am a manager here at iBailey, as well as the lead auditor on the June 30th, 2020 Telo Verde audit engagement. And so before I get started in the results of the audit, I kind of just want to go over what we typically do in order to produce this audit report. And so we typically go out to the district twice a year, but this year it was a little different due to COVID. So we did almost everything electronically. And so the first time is usually called our interim period, and that's typically from February time all the way up to June or July. And during that first visit, we go out, we do interviews with various personnel at the district office to determine controls, and we then do walkthroughs of those controls. We also do as much state compliance as we can. Then we also test attendance and ASB, and if we're able to determine what federal program we're going to be testing for that year, we'll be able to go ahead and get started in conducting interviews and kind of testing a little bit of expenditures at that time. Then our second visit is typically what we call our final visit, and that's done between August through end of November time. And this depends when the unaudited actuals are approved and completed. Once those are done, we then go ahead and schedule a week that works not only good for the district, but as well as for us. And then we go ahead and test balance sheet, ending details. We then finish our state compliance testing as well as the federal compliance. Then once we have all those areas tested, we can then go through our review process for the audit report. So now if you have the audit report in front of you, I'll be just saying some page numbers if you want to follow along, or jot them down for later to go ahead and take a look at those. So the actual results that you can see in summary form are on the Summary of Auditors Results on page 97 of the audit report. Here you'll notice three different sections. The first section is the financial statement section, and here you'll see that we actually noted an unmodified opinion with no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We also noted that there was no non-compliance that was material to the financial statements that we had to note. Next is your federal award section, which is where we test your federal expenditures for your federal programs like your Title I, your special education. So we assess all your federal programs and determine which one we need to test for the current year. And so for the June 30th, 2020 fiscal year, we actually tested Head Start. After our testing, we noted that there was no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and we issued an unmodified opinion on that, as well as no findings in regards to that program. It is also good to note that the auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee. The last section is your state compliance section, which is what we issue our opinion on over all the state programs that we are required to test in the state audit guide as issued by the Education Audit Appeals Panel. And so we actually noted an unmodified opinion, which is good. And if you wanted to see a full listing of all of those programs, you can go to the state compliance page on page 95 of the audit report, and you'll note whether we actually tested those, and if we didn't test those, the reason why. With that said, I believe that with everything going on, we were able to conduct the audit great this year, even though we had to do it electronically. And I just want to say that I am very happy and thrilled that I'm working with Melton and his team, because it made this audit a lot easier to conduct in this environment. He was very responsive, him and his team, to all the questions that we had, all the requests that we had. So I just want to end with that, and if anybody has any questions, I could definitely take those now and answer those for you.
Any questions? Dr. Guth? No?
No, I reviewed it and it looked good.
All right. All right. No questions from the board, Natalie. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, awesome. And if maybe questions come up later, you can email Melton. He can shoot those over to me, or he can provide you with my contact info, and we can talk directly as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Well,
All right, bye-bye.
all right. For our next presentation, we have the PVHS Athletic Complex Lighting Project and project updates. We have Mr. Jimmy Sanders.
Hello?
Hello?
There? Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and begin when you're ready. Just let me know when you want me to turn the page.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight the project update on all of our projects, but with a focus on the lighting projects, sports field lighting projects. So the second slide, if you will, Janine, site plan varsity baseball field. So this slide is intended to show all of the areas that are lit or proposed to be lit by the sports field lighting. So when we initially presented this project, we showed the areas that were proposed to be lit, the main areas, but we didn't show any of the support areas that are part of a standard lighting project. And so we just wanted to point those out, that in addition to actually lighting the field, that those sports field lights will also light some auxiliary areas. And we also at this point have the all of the pole locations set. So for example, on this baseball field, we had shown on our preliminary plan that there would be a total of 6 light standards. And on this design, you'll see here tonight that after going through all of the engineering and figuring out the most economical way to light the field, that it was actually more economical to light it with 8 light standards, so that you have more poles but less lights on the banks. So running through this slide, area number 1 is the actual baseball field. And you'll see that in the outfield, it has or is marked with 30 FC, which stands for 30-foot candles. And then the infield is marked with 50 FC, which stands for 50-foot candles. And that's the level of lighting. So that's the standard, that's the CIF standard for a high school varsity baseball field. You light the outside at 30, and you light the infield at 50. So the next area is the bleacher area, and that's lit at only 5-foot candles. And then the third area is the batting cages and bullpen area. So as of right now, that area is just open field. And so as part of the overall master plan, we're putting a few lights on top of that adjacent pole there, so that you can you have the ability to build a future batting cage and bullpen area. And then the last area is out there in center field. That is the service yard area, and those poles adjacent to that area would provide 10-foot candles of light for that area. And I want to point out that each one of these poles has a security light, and several of the poles are also equipped with video surveillance cameras. Okay. Any questions about the varsity baseball field and the areas to be lit?
Jimmy, is there a reason that we're lighting the service yard area? I don't know, is there, I mean, right now there's nothing out there but dirt and storage. I didn't know if there was some specific reason that a light had to be out there.
No, there's not. It's just that you don't have any lighting out there, and so by putting a few lights on the back sides of those poles, we can light that area. But if you see no reason for any lights in that area, that would be a small savings just to delete any lighting out there on that service yard.
Okay, so those lights though were going on the back of the poles that are actually gonna be used to light the outfield?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now they would need to be on a separate, you would run those on a separate circuit because, you wouldn't necessarily always want the lights on the service yard area to be on, when the baseball field is on. So those would be on a separate circuit, but there's no additional poles for those. It's just some lights that shine in the opposite direction as the baseball field. And as I'm going to point out here at the end of this presentation, of course, that can always be an alternate add. If you're for sure that that you don't want any lights in that area and there's no reason to light it, then I would say let's just nix it right now. But if you want to get a proposal for it, or if you want that to be included in the bid, of course we can do an alternate to add those lights as an alternate add.
And do we have, just because looking at this, it's got the foot candle is what you've used throughout. Is there like a price per like it's 10 FC? Do you have any kind of pricing on that? So when we're looking at these numbers, we have some idea of, okay, we can eliminate this one here. It's going to save us, $20,000. Do you have any of that information or?
So I didn't put a price specifically to that area, but just based on the fact that there would need to be a separate circuit for those, all the way from the panel, that's really going to be the expensive part. The actual lights themselves on the poles, that's going to be pretty inexpensive. So I would say I could run this down, but I would estimate that that's probably in the neighborhood of about $50,000 to light that area at 10-foot candles.
Okay.
Now another option would be, rather than light that at 10-foot candles, we could just put some security lights on the back of those two adjacent poles, and that would give you like 1-foot candle in that area, just so you could, just for security purposes, if that was important, because most of these poles have security lighting on them, just so that if you were to, if you're in a monitoring situation where you just want to see if anyone's out there on the field, there's a security light that is on either, from dawn to dusk or from dusk to say, 2 or 3 in the morning. You can program those however you want. So if that's a better, you have a few options there. You could just mix it all together. You could make it an alternate add, or you could delete the 10-foot candles and just provide a security light, down at 30 feet high that would just give you enough light to see if there's a person back there.
And would those security lights require a separate circuit?
Yes. Yeah. Any of the security lights are also on a separate circuit, but because it's only one light, it's it's just one stick of conduit with with just some small conductors. So security lights in that area, I would say, is 10,000 versus say 50,000.
Are the cameras included with the price that you have on here for the lighting?
Excuse me?
I was asking if the cameras are included in the price that you have here estimated for the lighting.
Yeah, so the actual security camera and the security surveillance system is not included. What is included in this project is all of the conduit and the structural supports to support that camera, because even though it's a very lightweight camera, you're going to want to run your conductors up on the inside of the pole, and then at say 30 foot high, it's going to come out of the pole, so you have to have a little handhold. So all that has to be designed into the pole, because once they're in place, you can't just get a cutting torch and cut a hole in there. So all that has to be designed and included at this point.
Okay. Okay. You wanna go on to the next one, Jimmy?
Deductive alternatives.
Okay, Jimmy, we can go on to the next one.
Okay, the next slide shows the varsity softball and practice softball. So field number 1 is the practice softball. Field number 2 is the varsity softball. And then note around the varsity softball, we have a designated bleacher area. Even though there's no bleachers there now, we have an area where we would provide some lighting at 10-foot candles, just so that if you ever wanted to put some bleachers there, you could light those bleacher areas. Just like with the baseball field, for both the infield and the outfield, the infields are at 50-foot candles, and the outfield of both the practice softball and the varsity softball are at 30-foot candles. And then in the southwest corner of that field, there's a big open area there. So we're lighting that area at 35-foot candles for batting cages and bullpen. And note that that this lighting design, the most efficient way to light these two fields and the batting cage and bullpen area, were to provide a total of 8 lights, basically 4 lights on each field. Okay. Any questions on that project? Again, I want to point out that at the end of this presentation, I have some proposed bidding, and I've got this all lumped together as one bid. But if you wanted to, you can break that down into the softball practice and the varsity softball, and you can even break down the area at the batting cages. So you can group it all together or break it down and provide alternates for each field.
Okay, and Jimmy, just to note that we also formulated a advisory committee in tandem with the lighting project to really evaluate the needs of the baseball and the softball fields. So we're going to need the continued flexibility and working together before we finalize the plans, because it's the advisory committee for the athletic complex is going to help inform this process, just so you're aware.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, we look forward to meeting with them and to getting input and direction from them.
Okay, I think we can move on to our next one, Jimmy.
Okay, the next slide shows the practice football/soccer field that's located on the west side of the softball practice field. And note that field is being lit at 30-foot candles, which is not game style lighting. So that's the same lighting that you light your outfields on a baseball field. So the lighting levels are a little bit lower than you're going to actually have over at your stadium, but they're most certainly a huge upgrade to what you have and very sufficient for football practice and soccer practice. Okay. Note that the most efficient way to light this field is to add 2 additional lights on the west side of the field, and then on the east side of the field, those lights are already needed to light the softball practice field and some of the varsity outfield, and so we're double banking those, so we would have lights on both sides of those fields down the right field line of the practice softball field.
Okay, so that's going to be a reduced cost then, correct? Because you're going to already have the infrastructure, you're just putting the light on the pole?
That's correct, yeah. As long as you, for example, you couldn't do, let's say that you wanted to take an alternate to to not do the practice softball field, well, you would be deleting those lights at the softball practice field, or the light poles, the light standards. And so at that point, then you wouldn't be able to double light or use those poles to double light both the softball practice and the football field. So if you wanted to break that down in a bid, we would have to be very specific that there's a possibility that you might not do the softball practice field, and that you would do the football practice field, and that way they would know they would still need to provide all 4 lights for the football practice. So, but again, we can break all that down and bid it any way you desire.
Have we determined if the current lighting is insufficient there? Because that field is currently lit. Is it not sufficient to be a lighting for a practice field?
Well, I think when we first started this project, this was the field that was going to be lit, that needed to be lit, and then from there it grew to, you know, both the softball field and the varsity field. So at some point, somebody was not satisfied with the lighting on this field. I can tell by looking at it that it doesn't appear to be lit well just from the lights and the height of the lights, but I've never you know gone out there with a foot candle reading at night to actually see what the readings are.
And we're currently analyzing that right now.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, Jimmy, we're ready for the next one.
Okay, the next slide shows the overall site plan of all of the areas proposed to be lit, and the current design of where those poles would be located. Okay. Next slide. So there was some discussion a few board meetings ago, I believe at the October board meeting, where we talked about equipping the poles for a future cell tower and Wi-Fi, and the board gave direction to light up to 3 poles. And so, based on the way that we're going to light these fields and the amount of lights on them, we want to make the recommendation that rather than do 3, that we would do 2. And the reason is because we're trying to place the cell tower equipment on the poles that don't have a lot of lights on them, so that we don't have a big wind load or structural load. So we are proposing to light what we call pole A2 and A3, and we've highlighted those on this slide.
Okay. Any questions on that one? No? All right.
Okay, so then the last few slides here is just a project update. First, with our site security improvement project, all the punch list or all the change order work has been complete. We've done a punch list. Both Steve and I have walked the site, all 4 sites, and done a punch list, and the contractor has that punch list, and we'll be completing that before the end of the month.
Great.
Okay, the next project is the sports field lighting update, and so I have updated the project description to support the additional Wi-Fi and cell tower equipment. I've included that price now in the estimated cost for each field. I've got an estimated cost from the vendor for what the poles are going to cost, including shipping and all the in-plant inspections, and and then I've got an estimated cost for the electrical hookups. So you can see that the varsity baseball field is at $546. The varsity softball and practice field lighting is at $590, and that the difference there is just because there's a lot more area. The number of poles is the same, but there's more lights because of the overall area is bigger. And then that practice field, those lights, that's a reduced cost for the area. And again, the reason is because we already have the light poles for the east side of that field included in the softball lighting field estimated cost. And so the total estimated cost there is $1,301,000, and that is for all the light standards to light everything. Okay, we've got the proposed bidding of how we would bid this, and so we would have a base bid of the varsity baseball field, and that includes all of those the lights that I showed you for that slide. And then we would have an alternate add one, which would include the varsity softball field and the practice field. And then the alternate add two would be the football and soccer practice field. And as I point out when I was going through those slides, this breaks it down into a base bid and two alternates. But if you wanted to, for example, if you wanted to separate out the varsity softball field and the practice softball field into a separate alternate, you could do that. If you wanted to separate out, for example, the service yard area at the varsity baseball field, you could also do that. So you can break this down. This is just what I was proposing without any input from the board or from the advisory committee on how to bid it. But as we pointed out in all of our presentations on the sport field lighting project, if you get the DSA approval on all those fields, well, you can bid those and decide, you know, what scope you want to do when you actually receive the bids.
Okay, any questions on that? No? All right.
Okay. All right. The next project is the Palo Verde High School CTE facility, and there's been, you know, no changes to the design or the square footage. The status is that's on hold, and I think there was some discussion and questions about where we were at as far as fees to date for the architectural and engineering services, and whether or not, you know, the pros and cons on going ahead and getting that submitted to DSA, or just leaving that on hold until you for a future date. So any questions on that project?
I guess I know it was our last meeting when we discussed this. We kind of needed to know where we were as far as for the money that we had paid so far. Where did that leave us? Do we have plans? You know, there was just some questions there as to what we had paid for so far on the CTE project, I think.
With the question
Yeah.
on percentage,
Right.
what the percentage was.
So I guess for what we've paid you so far, Jimmy, what do we have?
Yeah. So right now we have an invoice there for 65% of our fee, and right now the project is very close to being ready to be submitted today. It actually has not been submitted to DSA, because if you submit it, well, there's some additional fees to submit that. So on our end, instead of being at 65%, that would push us to 70% to submit it. And then in addition to that, you would owe DSA an estimated fee of $84,750 upon submittal to DSA. So right now you're at 65%, and of course we can just sit and hold on that, or, you know, with your direction, we could go ahead and actually submit that and secure DSA approval.
So 65% gets us the plans. or done. The plans are done. If we choose to submit them to DSA, then we're looking at additional funds. So that's at, you said that puts us at 70%, then that additional 30% is actually you, if we were to ever able to move forward on the project, that's that additional 30%?
Well, so the way it works is that right now we're at 65%. If we were to actually submit it to DSA, that would be another 5%. That would take us up to 70%. And then upon DSA approval is another 5%. That would take us from 70% to 75%. And then the last, so upon DSA approval is a total of 75% of the total fee. And then the last 25% is reserved for the bidding, construction, and project closeout of it. So if you wanted to obtain DSA approval, it would go up to 75%, and then you could you could shelve that and sit on it.
All right. So now,
and there would be no additional fees until you were actually to go to construction.
okay, so right now we own the plans. It would be at the discretion of the board whether we directed you to go ahead and go for DSA submittal, which would be approximately $85,000 more. But then that gets us, how many years does that get us? What, you can get up to a total of 4 years or 6 years once you have that?
Yeah, up to a total of 6 years with the extensions.
Okay. And I don't know that anybody foresees us even being able to do this in 6 years.
So the good news is we have a finalized plan for new construction, and we have secured our place in the waiting list for rounds of funding. So we have good choices moving forward in terms of expanding programs for students. And so at 65%, that means we have finalized plans in our possession, and then it's just a matter of where do we see on the horizon, along with the intersection of the grant funding, the matching state funds for construction. So then it gives more choices for the board. So did you want to expand on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, so at this point you could just sit and hold. You have a complete set of drawings, and then wait for a funding opportunity. And then when you see a funding opportunity on the horizon, at that point you could go ahead and direct us to submit to DSA and secure the DSA approval, and then you would be ready for when you potentially receive the money. So, for example, if you thought that there was a possibility in 2 years from now that you could fund this and receive state funds, and there was some type of a program where you had received approval, well, I would go ahead and secure that DSA approval, because you knew that funding was imminent both on your end and the state's end. But until you're at that point, you can sit on the drawings on where they're at today.
How long can you sit on the drawings? How often does codes change and stuff that would have to go back to the architect for revisions?
So codes change every 3 years. There's a code cycle or a code update, and so they just updated in 2019, and so there won't be another one until there'd be the 2022 code, but it won't be adopted until 2023. So you're 2 years out. You're 2 years out from a code cycle.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
So that's a really good question, because you could sit on the drawings as they are now without having to do any code updates.
all right. I don't see any reason for us to spend $85,000 to submit them to DSA at this point. I don't know where the rest of the board falls on that. Dr. Guth?
No, I agree with you.
Okay. Okay, so Jimmy, we'll wait on that then. We'll just sit on those plans until we're, if some miracle happens and we get the funding.
Yeah. Okay. All right, our next project is the animal barn. That is down to a few punch list items and the installation of the animal pens. The contractor has switched the fabricator of those pens. He's using a company called All Valley Fence, which is the same company that provided most of the fencing on that project, and they are under fabrication now. So. Okay, our next project is the Twin Palms High School Modernization Project, and at the last presentation we'd given a detailed cost estimate. None of that has changed, so I don't have any additional news or any additional information on that project, other than we are proceeding with the preparation of construction documents. And then the last project we have on the list here is the Margaret White Elementary School Modernization, and that project is on hold until we can get some cost estimates and scope and of course receive direction to proceed on that from the board.
Okay, so really the sports field lighting is the kind of the biggest one. I don't know, I would like to see, you know, how Tracy works with the advisory committee, and then I'd like to see us have a workshop as a board to discuss it in detail before we go forward with that. I don't know how anybody else feels about it.
Well, I've asked for this last time with some kind of timeline, how long it's gonna take to get, you know, from where we're at to get to DSA and stuff like that. A timeline is what I'd like to see. I think I asked for it last time too, and we haven't gotten one.
But was that regarding the lighting project, Sonny?
Yeah, all the
Okay.
projects, so we can have an idea when we do meet that this is gonna take this long and stuff like that. It gives us an idea, and it gives the community an idea how we're moving forward with it.
Okay, so yeah, we just formulated the committee. We have our first meeting tentatively January 29th, and then we'll discuss the timeline to get that information to inform this project.
All right, any other questions?
No, I don't have any more.
Was there a timeline, Jimmy, for the finalization of the plans for the modernization project at Twin Palms?
Yeah, yes, we were submitting that to DSA in March.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you for your time again, Jimmy. And
Okay.
we'll get back to you once we've had a workshop and had the committee meet.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, our next presentation is the PVUSD COVID-19 Safety Plan. Ms. Schaefer.
Good evening, board members, Ms. Kern. Later in the agenda, you will be asked to approve the CPP, or the COVID-19 Prevention Plan, which I am calling the PVUSD COVID-19 Safety Plan, because I think it's more than just prevention. I want to explain its purpose. I'm going to go back to newspaper talk and do the who, what, when, where, and why. The who of this plan: the COVID-19 Safety Plan was created by Cal OSHA. The district administration completed the COVID-19 Safety Plan template, filled it out, and the district superintendent reviewed the plan with union leaders at her monthly roundtable meeting. The what of the plan: the COVID-19 Safety Plan expands on the district's illness and injury prevention program in the following areas: identification and evaluation of COVID-19 hazards, controls of COVID-19 hazards, investigating and responding to COVID-19 hazards, systems for communicating, training and instruction, exclusion of COVID-19 cases, reporting, record keeping and access, and return to work criteria. The when of our plan: the COVID-19 Safety Plan is to be completed, approved, and posted to the district website by February 1st, 2021. The where of our plan: The COVID-19 safety plan is a plan that all districts across the state are expected to complete and submit to their local health department, to their county office of education, and to the Safe Schools for All team. The why of our plan: the COVID-19 safety plan is one of several requirements of the California Department of Public Health as PVUSD continues to prepare for school reopening when allowed by state and local health departments. It's also required under AB 685 and meets Cal OSHA mandates. This plan meets the requirements of the Cal OSHA temporary emergency standards. This plan is part one of two parts for the COVID safety plan required by California Department of Public Health. We will bring part two to you at an upcoming board meeting. The COVID safety plan, part one and part two together, replace the school waiver process. And after who, what, when, where, and why, I've got what else. Do any of you have any questions?
How does this plan address the vaccine? Does it?
It does not. I don't remember the vaccine being in there.
Yeah, there's some areas that speak to the vaccine, but the majority of it is how to reopen schools safely, with a lot of updates for students, with a lot, and the parameters regarding that.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. All right, our next presentation is Learning Loss Mitigation Plan. Ms. Kern?
Okay, members of the board and cabinet, I would like to present the Learning Loss Mitigation Plan. I want to recognize staff has behind the scenes not only been working very hard to mitigate for all the health and safety practices and procedures, preparing the way for when our students can, when it's safe to do so, return back on campus in person. But staff has also been working very hard to currently to get ready to mitigate the learning loss that's occurred because of COVID. So this year, our efforts so far has been, we don't have a clicker, so Janine's trying to read my mind over there. So if you could just like do all the bullet points for me, thank you. So both our district team and our site-based team, teachers, administrators, have been really working hard to, one, making sure that we can assess properly on where our students are and the areas of learning loss, and how to, by building an early warning data system with a site team in order to respond to the student learning needs. So our data guru, Lois Schaefer, has been working very hard to build this system in tandem with the principals. Next, we are continuing instructional leadership, coaching, and mentoring for all of our principals, as well as including this year our coordinator of our preschool Head Start program, so that we can align and articulate common practices from preschool all the way to 12th grade. We've been continuing to work with our academic coach in order to train our academic coach to be trainer of trainers, so that that is a local support system for all staff, with helping them become more effective teachers in teaching and learning. We've been shoring up our early literacy development. We've brought in a literacy coach and expert who is also very knowledgeable with direct instruction was actually worked with Action Learning System. So that person is aligned and could reinforce our initiatives that we currently have developed, as well as working preschool through second grade with shoring up our early literacy for our students. She's also very knowledgeable in the curriculum that we utilize, and she's been training teachers already with these practices, so that not only are they becoming more effective through the online learning platform, but they're ready. We're trying to prepare so that as soon as students come back, we're hitting the ground running. We're ready now. We're shoring up and getting everything ready now. The other area that we're working on for this school year is we're continuing our targeted intervention programs. We're evaluating our intervention programs to determine other areas that we also need to build in order to make sure that students are at grade level for literacy and numeracy. Okay, next. We're continuing to work with RCOE professional developments as well. So other experts we're bringing in that's currently working with our schools, our administrators, and our teachers are in the areas of training in EL standards, strategies and support, understanding differentiation for our English learners. So also the school sites have developed teams for this year, looking at the data and who those EL learners are, how are they doing, and how to make sure we're building effective interventions and extra practice for them to be able to take advantage of. We're building our corrective reading platform. We started it at the high school setting last school year, and I think even the year prior for 9th graders, and now we're building it kind of systematically through the elementaries, so that as we're building better, healthier early literacy and aligning that with preschool through 2nd grade, we're also wanting to correct for and accelerate students with their learning through corrective reading. So we're going to be bringing that in at the elementary school, high school, Twin Palms as well. And we've brought in universal design for learning this year as well for our teachers and administrators, which is a fundamental part of when we throw around this term MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support. It's how to build that foundation for effective teaching and learning practices for all. We've been busy, and our teachers have been really working hard with the training and integrating the training, as well as our administrators. So I really appreciate all of their hard work. But I want you to know that behind the scenes, we've been aware of wanting to mitigate learning loss, and we're preparing very diligently. Next. Part of wanting to build our programs and to help with mitigating learning loss is I don't know if you've recalled that earlier we discussed STEM program in bringing that into the 9th grade and partnering with Sonoma State University. Our STEM teacher currently is in STEM training for that program. We've established at an elementary school, elementary student support team, so that we have a varied array of expertise at each of the school sites at the elementary, so that they can work together to increase their ability to be effective in meeting the needs of elementary students. We've incorporated the MTSS for counseling, which means that all students have an opportunity to meet with their academic counselor, develop their plan, and be on point to graduate. And we've continued to shore up our behavioral health collaboration with our local agencies. We're contemplating right now and planning for what does summer school look like. We definitely want to still continue summer school through Scale Academy and offer that, but we're looking at the viability of what would it take to be offering summer school, extended learning time, and possibly a Jump Start program. We're in the planning stages. We'll be bringing information regarding that in terms of affordability, the demand, and the ability to facilitate. Next. So this will allow for next school year, so that we can then start providing right away corrective reading intervention curriculum program for students in the following grades 4, 8, and 9, and we're also contemplating into 3rd grade as well. Think Circa is a program that's highly effective. We piloted it at Ruth Brown. It has really great results, and it's a supplemental program that helps students reading and writing practices, and you teach it through a core, either through ELA, science, and social studies for our 6th to 8th grade students. We're going to have that ready to go. We're going to continue with effective math teaching and learning practices district-wide through coaching and mentoring, and continue to implement a robust student data system so that we can use that system to know where students need support in their learning and where we are being effective as well. Next. So we want to continue to provide the academic coaching to support our teachers. The coaching that is supporting our administrators and principals for instructional leadership. We want to continue working with our COE through 2021, 2022 in supporting all staff to really understand how to be effective at supporting our English learners, building those EL teams, and continue offering targeted intervention programs, which we do offer currently K through 12. Next. Then we would be offering at the next school year the STEM program, and 9th graders would be enrolled in that program. We've been working very diligently to align and articulate preschool through 12th grade so that students have that ability to have continuity of educational programs and practices. So, and continue to collaborate and expand behavioral health, looking into our student after-school tutoring offerings for effectiveness, and continue to look into the viability of extended learning times such as summer school, Jump Start, and after-school tutoring. So those are the ways that we've been building to address learning loss, and looking into for next year on the programs that we'll be able to offer because we've been doing that hard work currently. Next. So, any questions?
Yeah, that's the school tutoring. Have they been doing it in the weekend too? I know they used to before. Is that an idea, or is that just after school?
Okay, so we did have at some point like a Saturday school.
Yeah.
To be able to students that needed to basically, if they were absent from school and then they needed to have another opportunity to attend school. And we started to do that on Wednesdays because we had Wednesday's minimum day. And so they were able to build that time in on Wednesday afternoon. Then that was occurring, I believe, weekly at the schools. For that attendance recovery and an opportunity for students to learn.
Yeah, and the tutoring, they used to have high school students do some of the help with the tutoring. Is that part of the program?
So.
No, as tutors. Helping other students.
Not so much that I know of currently, Sonny.
I know we used to have it, and it seemed to work out pretty good back then because some of the kids just don't have time after school to do it because they're in athletic programs or whatever. But sometimes we should see high school students come and help the elementary kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you. As a parent, it's reassuring to know that we're doing all these things to mitigate the loss that these kids are obviously going to incur this at least a year that they've missed of school. So thank you to everybody that's working on all of it.
And it's going to take several years, 3 years to get back to try to recover through this acceleration process. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. We have nothing for our hearing session this evening. Reports and communications. Board member report. Dr. Guth?
Nothing to report.
Mrs. Mendez?
I actually wanted to say that in December I was able to participate in the food distribution. At 2 of the sites. I went over to Appleby and finished off over at Ruth Brown, and after we were done with all of the food distribution, I also was able to help Missy and Jesse dismantle all of the boxes, or whatever the perishable items, so that they could make sure that got back into the freezer. So I did that, and I was, it was exciting to be able to see, how the parents actually took advantage of all of that, and knowing that all of the work that's been put into it wasn't going, to waste, or, they weren't taking advantage of that.
Great. All right, Mr. Hernandez?
I have nothing to report.
Gutierrez? Nothing to report. And I have nothing to report. Our superintendent's report, Ms. Kern?
I do want to report that we successfully are at a board meeting in our new location at the new district office. And really want to thank all the staff that worked really diligently and hard to be able to allow us to be live and to conduct our meeting at our new location. So thank you to all the multiple departments that made this happen.
Okay. Our fiscal update report, Mr. Sanchez?
Good evening again, board, superintendent, and community. Is this on, Jenny? Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure we're here, okay. All I kind of want to cover tonight, and this is actually an informational item at the end, so I'm going to just steal the thunder now, is share the results of the 2020-2021 first interim financial report. We got the letter back from RCOE, and just like I said, want to touch on some of the major points of the letter. I presented a positive certification to the board on December 15th. RCOE's concurred with that assessment, so they have certified to the California Department of Education a positive certification for the district. It is not without its caveats. We still have budgeted and most likely will materialize unrestricted deficit spending. So we're going to want to watch, how the events unfold over the next kind of year or two, making sure that we're adjusting, spending or staffing ratios as needed just to keep the budget, more or less in balance. The unrestricted fund balances right now are sufficient. And that's why we got our positive certification. We're able to meet our reserves for the current year and the 2 out years. Our COE did note that on the LCFF calculator, I underestimated the revenues by approximately 300,000. And it wasn't that I underestimated revenues. When you plug in your attendance and your enrollment projections, and the calculator will generate, what it expects your revenues to be. I put in our actual attendance and enrollment projections for the year and didn't realize I was supposed to use last year's numbers. I thought the calculator would take care of that. So at second interim, I just need to make sure I'm using the same numbers, and then that will true that up. Rather be short, though, than over, I guess. They also continue to call attention to the fact that we are in a declining enrollment and attendance district. So again, just watching our expenditures, staffing ratios, things like that, we're going to want to consider that we do continue to decline in both enrollment and attendance. Our unduplicated pupil percentage, this was the topic I had spoken to the board a couple times in the fall. I was concerned. I brought up in previous meetings that we were hold harmless for our ADA. We are not held harmless for our unduplicated percentage, and that was a big concern at the beginning of the year. In 1920, our P2 certification was 75.55%. We reported 74.82, and it might have gone, do you know if it went up any more than that? We're gonna be close to 75, what we certified to the state at the end of the month. So I'm glad, I guess, that we were able to kind of shore up our unduplicated numbers, and that's through great effort from Lois, the school sites. A lot of that was just making sure we had the information on the students. So I appreciate everybody for their hard work, and 74.82 off of 75.5, that's we can manage that. I was much more concerned when I came to you guys back in the fall. So again, and it may be that when we do our final certification that we're pretty close to what we certified last year. There just also, the letter goes on to remind us that we still have some coronavirus relief funds to spend. I'm still waiting on some guidance to see what happened with the Resource 3220 that was to expire. We're hearing news that there may be some extensions of that. I have not heard it in a real definitive way. We had a meeting with RCOE on Friday, but that got canceled. It's moved to this Friday, so I'm hoping to get more information at that time. I don't know for sure yet what we're going to do with the TRAN. We have projected a positive cash balance. It gets kind of low. And the last time we had this conversation with RCOE, they had recommended that we do maybe like a $2 million TRAN, about 1.8, 1.9 million. We're going to finalize those numbers this week, and then ideally at the next board meeting, I'll let you guys know how that looks. But there's been more positive news coming through, so I'm kind of hoping we could get by without that, but still got to do a little digging. So that's pretty much the letter. They just warn us, to continue to be cautious, make sure we're planning carefully. Any questions regarding?
Since we have a new board member, could you explain the difference between qualified certification, positives, and they're rated differently?
Absolutely. Whenever we submit a budget report, RCOE has 3 certification levels. There's positive, there's qualified, and there's negative. Positive is the one that we would always strive for. It means that we are projected to meet all of our obligations in the current budget year and the 2 forecast years. A qualified, even though it sounds all right, is really not that good. Qualified means that we could probably pay our bills in the first year, but we project trouble in either the second or third subsequent year. And then negative, which I hope to never see that one, is you having trouble in the current budget year. That's likely going to trigger some responses from the county or the state or FCMAT or whatever. So again, I'm hoping to never see that one. But does that answer the?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Now, does this help us get out of the scope of when the county was watching us or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, anything, I think if we continue along, this pathway, I think it's, they're always there. It's like Big Brother, they always watch. But as far as the, any kind of invasive, measures, yeah, this would definitely keep us with local control. I think that's the best way to say it.
Yeah. And I do want to thank the board, because I think the decisions you've made on how to shore up the budget is paying off. We're to positive, and those hard decisions that you've made all along the way is starting to come to fruition, and we're much more sustainable.
Yeah. Second that. Thank you.
Good. All right.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have no reports of associations this evening. Consent items. L1, minutes. Call for a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? L2, personnel reports.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? L3, ratification of PVHS Associated Student Body Statement, November 20th, 2020.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
L4, ratification of regular school business.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Action items. M1, approval of memorandum of understanding between Palo Verde Unified School District and the Palo Verde Teachers Association. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? M2, approval of agreement, student teaching internship with Grand Canyon University.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
M3, approval service agreement with ATX Learning for speech therapy services.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
M4, approval consultant services contract with Brent Cooper, DBA, El Paseo Children's Center Behavioral Support.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
M5, approval RCOE master agreement for CTE instructor services.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? M6, approval of Palo Verde High School single plan for student achievement.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? M7, approval of 2020-2021 Every Student Succeeds Act Comprehensive Support and Improvement LEA application for funding.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
M8, approval of PVUSD COVID-19 safety plan.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
M9, approval fuel education online quote.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? M10, approval consultant agreement with Noel Bueller.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? M11, approval of 2019-2020 annual financial audit report.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? M12, second reading and approval board policies exhibits recommended for update October 2020 CSBA policy guide sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Discussion and information items. N1, first reading and discussion, board policies exhibit bylaws recommended for update December 2020 CSBA policy guide sheet. Questions or comments? N2, information, second quarter 2020-2021 Williams uniform complaint reports. Questions or comments? And N3, information, 2020-2021 first interim financial report letter. Milton's already went over that. Any other questions or comments? All right. Any other business? Nope. Future agenda items? All right, call this meeting adjourned. Next regular meeting, Tuesday, February 2nd.
Thanks for accommodating me.